Right, thank you. Now you know why it is I mix it with the Greens in Hollywood. Very nice people want to nationalise everything. Great. No, quite seriously, I'm part of it's not exactly a group, it's a sort of group, so that we get access to the business round in the Parliament. And there are 2 Greens in it and 3 independents. And I tell you, I think I'm more green than anything. Can you be green and have a dishwasher though?
My wife says yes.
Right, down to business. I'm not sure just how many of you are in tonight, because I really think that we should not have sovereignty in Scotland, that Parliament should not be a sovereign Parliament. I don't know, but I hope by the time you leave you're at least thinking about it and wondering why you describe yourself as Scots when you're not willing to take the responsibility for sustaining the Scottish nation. And it doesn't matter, incidentally, where you came from or what colour you are or anything like it. He's Scots, I'm Scots, you're Scots. If you decide to leave, that's a different matter. But so long as you stay, and your heart's here, and your roots are here, and you're working, and you have family here, you're Scots. That's all there is to it. Don't have any more angst over it. But I'm going to get confessions out of the way first. I think I was the person who introduced the term social union. And round about, as an article I wrote for the Times, the London Times, that is, 76 or 77. And I had a clear idea of what I meant by social union. The sort of union amongst people that would continue no matter what political construct we decided on. Because at that time, it seemed independence was almost a dream. The best we could hope for was a Scottish Parliament for control over Scottish affairs, as we called them. And of course that didn't include anything that had to do with people beyond these shores. That was for big boys, that wasn't for us. However, at that time, visualising independence, I said that so much would change, but I thought that the social union would remain. Now, what I was really talking about, and it took me till quite a few years afterwards to realise exactly what it was. My sister lived in Yorkshire and brought up her family in Yorkshire. My daughter was in Dublin. She was working in Dublin for 4 years. I felt no closer to my sister because she and I were in the same state than I did to my daughter when she and I lived in different states. And there was no barriers between us. There was a social union, a social communion, if you like. So I wish I'd made it clearer when I did, because since then all sorts of people have tried to explain the good intentions for maintaining what has been good about the social approach to life that has been built up across all of the British Islands. And I think there's been a bit of a guddle resulted. I think people are a bit confused now. And I hear Alex Salmon criticised for saying, we'll have such and such a thing, and that'll just be like the current way of running things. I think he's been far too open, to be quite honest, because I don't think he's done enough preparatory work to say to people, this is what we mean by total sovereignty, this is where you might think about sharing sovereignty. And you might think about sharing sovereignty when it came to defending not just Scotland, not just England, but the whole group of offshore islands. We have, when you think about it, we have very much a common attitude towards maintaining the sort of social conditions and social attitudes that have taken maybe 200 odd years to build up here, and we don't want to lose them. We think they're worthwhile holding on to. And I think that there's nothing wrong with wanting to hold on to the sort of attitudes that we have built up over that time, in conjunction with people who lived in other parts of the United Kingdom. But I don't think it's been explained very well. So I think that has made some people think, do we need independence? What do we need independence for? Well, you need independence for the reason that the councillor explained. If you're going to take full responsibility, if you're going to do things from the ground up, then you need independence. It's not devolution. Devolution is power retained. And the power is retained in Westminster. That means that priorities are set in Westminster, whether you like it or not. There's obviously a priority set in Westminster as regards how we defend ourselves, because there's nuclear weapons still there, even though I'm quite convinced a majority of Scots now would want to see the back of nukes. And to be absolutely frank, I think if the Scots took the lead, I think most English people would start saying, why do we need these nukes? I mean, if they only knew the truth of them. Do you know that I interviewed the American ambassador once? Reagan's ambassador, forget his name, something the third or fourth. Anyway, not quite seriously. He was one of the guys who bankrolled Reagan when he was going for the presidency. And in the course of the interview, I mentioned the British nuclear deterrent. And he said, peanuts. And I said, pardon? And he said, peanuts. Whereupon the two gentlemen, sort of underarm stuff, holsters that is, sitting in the corner of the room, got very agitated and came trying to get my tape off me. And they didn't get it off me, but I had to go undergo quite a bit of pressure, because that was what the Americans thought of the British deterrent. It's never been a deterrent, not to anything. I mean, if we wanted to declare nuclear war on somebody, we need to pick somebody our own size, like Malta maybe. So we're kidding ourselves and we're paying all that money. How stupid. And I think that if we got shot of it, if we said on the attainment of independence, we know you can't get it out next Tuesday, but we'd like to see an end of it by, and you fix a date in negotiation. Now we can do that, but we will need to do it for ourselves. Nobody else is going to do that. And you know that, whether you know, yes, undecided, or absolutely convinced that we're all bonkers. No, we're not bonkers, because all we'd be doing is trying to do what Singapore has done, what Norway has done, what Finland has done, and that is grow much, much bigger in our own shoes, because that's what we can do. We've got the basic tools there. For goodness sake, on the day that Graham Bell is announced to be the best scientist ever in the United Kingdom's history, and the day that we have 5 universities in the top 200 in the world, okay, they're not the top, because Princeton and so on, with all the oodles of money that they've got, they take the top places. But more than any other country in the world, we've got a university represented. Now, we should not do ourselves down. It wasn't luck that happened. It meant that there was something, that there was some root there that has been growing for a long time, and we are benefiting from it. And so therefore, we could, I think, do as Singapore and the others have done that I mentioned. We could grow much bigger, because we would test ourselves, we'd take a wee bit of a risk that we don't take just now. And many folk who are undecided are worried about the risk. Worried about the risk of having £1 trillion debt to pay. That is the sure thing if you stay with Britain. Worried about the risk of your children having to go to food banks. That's what you get if you stay with Britain, and inside the British economy, allowing you the space to develop that it does at present. Now, some folk don't like to be reminded of it, but that is the case. What's so good about being British if you're only thinking of that? If you have a deep, genuine, emotional attachment to the idea of Britishness, perfectly all right, that's up to you. I don't share it with you. My idea of being British is, as I said, shared values, shared experience and all the rest of it. I don't feel it in my soul. Now, some folk might feel their Britishness in their soul, and that's all right, and for goodness sake, don't be ashamed of it. But don't do down people who feel Scottish in just the same way by telling them that they couldn't possibly do any better than they do just now in terms of creating the fairer society, the better society that all of us up here want to, are determined to do if we get the chance. Why should we fail?